Honorable listener, coming to you with sound and fury and vim and vigor, it's the Strings and Things podcast. On this show, musicians come by to change their guitar strings and talk about all kinds of things. After we swap some stories and clean up the mess, the new strings get a workout in a special performance with our guest. This week, we have the prolific composer-guitarist Nick Didkovsky, founder of the rock ensemble Dr. Nerve, and an agent of destruction in the grindcore outfit Vomit Fist. We wish we could assure you that no strings will be harmed in the making of this episode, but let's find out. Let's turn this over to our host, Patrick Grant.
Hi everybody, welcome to Strings and Things. On this show we have composer, performer, guitarist in this case, Nick Didkovsky.
How you doing?
Of Dr. Nerve, Vomit Fist, and a whole bunch of projects that we'll be talking to you about right now. So I guess I first met Nick in the 90s when I just started going to a lot of concerts, and a lot of his works were being performed. I think I remember one of the pieces of yours being performed at a Bang on a Can marathon.
Yeah, that would have been Amalia's Secret.
And that was written for the All-Stars?
Yes. I met the Bang on a Can people when I performed a solo guitar piece on an event that they curated at the Kitchen. I composed a piece called I Kick My Hand for solo guitar. And it was an evening of solo guitar pieces. I don't remember who else was on. Oh, John King did a really cool piece. I forgot who else was on it. Well, anyway, I premiered I Kick My Hand, and they really loved it. And we sort of felt like we were kin. A couple years later, they asked me to write a piece for the All-Stars, and that ended up being Amalia's Secret.
Yeah, because then I, of course, met Kathy Sapovi, and then through her, Dr. Nerve.
Right.
Dr. Nerve is your big band project.
Yeah, it's been over 30 years now we've been together. 4-piece horn section, currently with Ben Harrington, Michael Lytle, Yves Dubois, Rob Henke on trombone, bass, clarinet, soprano sax, and trumpet, respectively. Kathy on piano, myself on guitar, Jesse Krakow on bass, and Leo Ciesa on the drums. And we've been around so long that the new people, I still consider them new people, but they've been in the band for years. Like Ben, who is an incredible player I've known for a long time through Meridian Arts Ensemble. He's sort of still the new guy, but he's been in the band for over 5 years now.
Right. A lot of us know what the internet was like in the 90s. You had a big presence there because I saw a lot of recordings on a cuneiform.
Yeah.
Carrying your stuff.
Right.
And it also drew attention to the fact that you're doing something that a lot of people were not doing and still don't do, which is you write a lot of code and a lot of pieces that used code, beyond like we're playing guitar and talking about guitars today. There's a heavy electronic aspect to your body of work.
The language I originally wrote computer music in was called HMSL.
Yes.
Hierarchical Music Specification Language. I used that from around 1988, 89 through 97. HMSL was developed by Phil Burke, Larry Polanski, and David Rosenboom at the Mills College Center for Contemporary Music. It's a very radical, powerful API for doing real-time and non-real-time music composition and performance.
I met Larry Polanski through a Gamelan Son of Lion.
Right.
Yeah.
He's very connected to those guys, and they to him. I met Larry on the telephone after pitching this idea for a piece that I wanted to see realized to Pauline Oliveros, and she sent me back a very supportive letter saying this would be a great piece to do. You might consider this platform, or you might consider HMSL, in which case contact Larry. So I think I called him on a rainy night as I was walking around town.
They call that a
payphone.
pathetic fallacy in literature.
Yeah.
It was a dark and rainy night.
Yeah, it was. It was my pathetic fallacy night. I had a bunch of quarters in my pocket. I just kept feeding them because I was calling California. And in about 5 minutes or less, Larry convinced me that I should get a Commodore Amiga, and I should get J-Forth, and I should get HMSL, and I should put those things together, and I should come see him at Harvest Works, where he was going to demonstrate HMSL with Phil Burke. He kind of sold it to me right there, and I'm forever grateful that he did, because using HMSL as a compositional extension of my brain was huge for me. And I used it for almost a decade, at which point it became clear that the Amiga was an orphaned technology.
Yeah, I'm saying you can't see, but my face lit up when you said Commodore Amiga. I was like, wow.
Yeah, of course, man. The Amiga was an amazing machine. I still have a couple because I would collect them as spares in case, if my Amiga died, I would not have a composition platform anymore. I've always been drawn to like sort of the most powerful and sort of obscure or extreme areas of whatever, inquiry or communities, I guess. And so, of course, I eschewed, the IBM world and the Atari and the Mac and all that. It's like, oh, give me this weird little computer made out in California by these total geeks. And sure, that sounds like a great machine to commit my life to. But, after a while, it was at a point where if this machine died, I had nothing to work on anymore. So right around that time, Java hit my radar. Java being a platform-independent language, I felt attracted to that. And so Phil Burke and I wrote sort of a next-generation HMSL in Java, which is called JMSL, which is what I use now.
Well, speaking of obscure machines, let's use that as a natural segue to tell us what kind of guitar you brought today.
Oh, this is a BC Rich Stealth. It's the Chuck Schuldiner tribute. This is a guitar I got about a year ago, I guess, at the prompting of a friend of mine, Linda Lazeman, and my son, Leo. I play with Leo in a metal band called Vomit Fist.
We all know Vomit Fist.
Yes.
Is there a website?
Vomitfist.com.
Vomitfist.com. This appears to be a 24-fret guitar.
This is a 24-fret guitar. Chuck Schuldiner is one of the great guitarists, dearly departed. And this was the guitar that he played. Originally, actually, this guitar was designed by Rick Derringer, and he couldn't get a manufacturer to really commit to it. But after sort of a flirtation with it, then I think then BC Rich kind of took over, and then Chuck made it famous. But this was designed by Rick Derringer. One of the really cool things about it, the ergonomics of it. Look at that nice cutaway.
Yes.
It's one piece. It's a neck through, and they have this nice little scoop at the top of the neck where the heel of your hand would fit in.
And the strap attaches to a knob directly behind the neck.
Well, originally we moved that, actually.
Oh, you moved it, okay.
It's on the upper horn, but it balances really weird there, so I moved it to here where it feels a little bit better.
Right behind the 24th fret.
Yeah.
About.
It's an alder body and has just a single pickup. It's the DiMarzio X2N pickup. It's a very high output pickup. It has no tone control, just has one volume control. And the versatility of this thing is just so surprising. I got it sort of more on a dare than anything else. It's like, all right, I'll get a pointy guitar, I was playing my Les Paul in Vomit Fist, and it's a great guitar for Vomit Fist. But after doing a few basement shows that get pretty kinetic, you really don't want your vintage Les Paul on stage with Vomit Fist. The response of this guitar is incredible. When you roll the volume off, it just cleans up beautifully. I took it to Evan Gluck, who put a little push-pull switch in there so I can split the coil. So it gets really chimey and silvery and glassy when one pickup
It does what when you pull it out?
So it's a coil-tapped pickup. In the up position, only one coil of this humbucker is engaged.
Okay.
So it's a single coil sound. When it's down, I got both coils engaged. So you get the humbucking effect, and you get more output. It's very creamy, overtone rich pickup. I never really took this pickup seriously, mostly because of the hype behind it. When you look up old ads for the X2N, it's all about brutality and ripping your face off, and
That's how they try to sell it.
That's how they try to sell it, and it's great. Brutality is great, and ripping your face off is, yeah, man, I'm totally behind that. But that's not all this thing does.
But the knob goes in the other direction, too.
Yeah. Even at full, you get just this beautiful overtone, rich signal. There's something very elegant about this design, too. It's sort of rounded. This is kind of like a take on an Explorer, maybe.
Right.
Like a kind of a mutated, like alien pod egg version of the Explorer with these beautifully proportioned lengths of the horns and the
But it's
scoops.
soft as if somebody painted an X with, calligraphy with, ink and a brush.
That's a really nice metaphor for it.
It's not juvenile in terms of how these designs can sometimes go.
Yeah. I mean, I could talk forever about each of my guitars, but the reason I brought it today was because I just got off a run of shows with Vomit Fist, and these strings genuinely are in need of changing.
That is absolutely the best reason ever to bring in a particular guitar onto the show.
So should we start cutting things and
I'll
and
just
getting to work here?
I have a couple of guitars, and I'm trying to pace my guitars. This is a 1965 reissue of a Jaguar by Fender, which has sort of become my guitar of choice these days. When I met you, I was playing the Les Paul, which is great when one is performing an ensemble of smaller numbers. But I found that when I'm performing guitar ensembles, I prefer the thinner tone because now I can hear the polyphony better.
Yeah.
Because having an inner voice that's just so thick and full just muddies things up.
Right.
And
Les Paul's, I agree.
And I have dedicated myself to really understanding, for many, the perplexing switch mechanism of the Jaguars, but it's really easy. I don't know.
I see 2 pickups with 3 toggle switches. So what do the 3 toggle switches do?
Everything's off now, right?
Okay.
So there's the neck pickup.
Right.
That's the bridge pickup.
Right.
And this is what's called a strangle switch, which is pretty much a high-pass filter. It just filters out some of the lower frequencies if you want to give your thing an extra bite. Only these 3 switches are affected by the volume and the tone. Now, if I put this switch over here, it kills all this. And then it's just these guys, which is just volume and tone.
Volume and tone
Operating
for both
off,
of them.
operating off the neck pickup. So
Only the neck.
Yeah.
So if you hit that switch, you only get the neck pickup.
Right. And then you can, bring it up as bright a tone as possible. The idea being that, if you set your volume differently, pretty much like do your solos like that. When the guy sings again, you just click it back that way.
Oh, that's why. Because you could obviously get that here by...
But I think the idea is that just on the fly, you all of a sudden instantaneously can take the volume down.
You have a different volume.
Yeah.
Wow, it would be cool if there was another switch there that would let you select pickups.
Yes, it would.
So you could go...
Well, there's all
It's
kinds
like having a channel switch on an amp, except it's...
We just can imagine
on the
there's all
guitar.
kinds of mods out there, and that is available if people want to do that.
That's cool.
But being that this is a reissue, and as you know, I'm doing this project with mobile electric guitars. So since I don't have the opportunity of foot pedals, if I can just change as many sounds as I can on the guitar itself,
Yeah.
I find that helpful.
Cool.
So we're jumping into changing our strings now, and the method we're going for is let's just take off all the strings all at once and just go for it.
I sort of have to do that. I don't like removing tension from the neck because,
Right.
The neck is used to it, and now he's suddenly removing it. But I'll get over that. So I just have to loosen up my bridge a little bit.
Whoa. That could have put out somebody's eye.
So I've been thinking about, do you remember a couple of years ago when people thought the world was going to end? It was like May 21st or something like that.
It's my birthday, so I remember it very well.
You do remember that? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Oh, great. So I'm talking to the right guy. I remember it because the father of a friend of one of my kids didn't exactly believe it.
Good for him.
But his mind was open to it.
Tell me more.
Well, just like an agnostic not wanting to actually say, I don't believe there's anything higher than us, because that would be presumptuous, and like, why would I commit to saying that something's impossible when
I see impossible things every day.
When I see right, like that dragon landing on the barge. But what struck me about that event was that the people that joined it,
They sold everything.
well, they didn't even bother selling it. They just left. Why would they sell? They wouldn't sell because they have no use for money. They didn't even lock their doors. So these are educated people. They're not people in any kind of socially stressful situation. They have jobs, they have families. They would just leave their house and get on a bus and go join the chosen few who knew that the world was going to end on May 21st.
That scares me.
Well,
When people can just change their minds so quickly like
well,
that.
so that's what so my question is whether that's an aberration of human intelligence, or if it's actually evolutionarily an advantage. And the thing that I'm talking about is being able to wipe a whole set of axioms from your
Right.
set of critical thinking and adopt a new one in relatively short order. I mean, these people, let's say a 35-year-old businessman, right? He's been operating under a set of reasonable circumstances like, Newtonian physics and Einsteinian, time and science and real world and gravity and things like that, right? And then in a relatively short amount of time, just by being exposed to a few blog posts and articles in the newspaper, accepts this notion that due to some numerology that some guy he never met before did, the world was going to end on May 21st. How did that ability for the human mind to adopt a whole new set of axioms that are irrational come to be? That person is not exhibiting mental illness. It's just the human mind is doing that, right?
Right.
Was there an evolutionary advantage to that? Or is it like a byproduct of being intelligent? It's like once you have a complex enough system to do what we do as human beings thinking, you sort of automatically get the ability to believe in well thought through but irrational, baseless things as well.
What about people with, pick an example that comes to mind. People with addictions. All of a sudden, they just see too many people dying from doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Where one day they can just wake up and say, I'm just not that guy anymore. And it's like cold turkey. Boom.
Oh, that's like a positive version of that.
Well, you're asking what could be the evolutionary advantage?
Right. So without that, you can't like reinvent yourself. Yeah, actually, that's a really interesting. Right.
Or somebody being shown enough empirical evidence that, I guess the world is really not flat.
Well,
and now that I accept that it's round, all of a sudden, all these other things open up.
Right, but that's sort of how we want the brain to work.
Yeah.
As opposed to knowing that the world is round for most of your adult life, reading a few weeks of blog posts that it's flat, and suddenly accepting that it's flat, and getting on a bus to join a bunch of other people that accept it's flat. What's the evolutionary advantage of the brain being able to do that?
We're doing our string changing in two different methods here. I've coming up on completing the first half of my strings. Nick is halfway done with what he's doing. So
Oh no, not even.
Not even.
I got. Are you still taking your strings off?
No. The three bottom ones are new, and the three top ones are old.
I had to.
Because I realized I was copying you, and I'm like, yeah, why am I taking all my strings off when I don't have to? Because I do like to keep the tension on there too.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be like the correct host. Like if somebody picks up the wrong fork at dinner, it's like, well, we better do it because our guest did it. And
I see. Right. No, I mean, don't take off your bridge either.
No, I won't. Actually, this only works because these guitars are notorious for staying in tune. So I got a mastery bridge that totally changed that whole situation.
So what's been on your mind? What do you want to?
What's been on my mind? I'm finishing up some recordings of what you've played on.
Yeah.
And so we can have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to spend too much time talking about myself, but I was always amazed that I would send you, like a MIDI file of a track, and then you'd send me back a WAV file of something you recorded at home, and you were able to get some air involved. It sounded like you had a lot of quilts you were throwing over amps.
No. Everything I record at home is low volume. SM57, just really close to the speaker, which is where you would always normally put it. I just don't turn up very loud. Your election piece, I recorded that.
I have to put that out because it's called Primary Blues. It's like it means like there's a track sitting around for 4 years, so that's the first thing I'm getting done.
Do it up.
Yeah.
I actually recorded that with Marshall Valve State 8100, which is a solid state amp. It's a brutal metal amp. I love that amp.
No, it sounded a little. We'll hear it soon, but it just screamed, and it just sounded like, and everything, the way it would just glide together, no matter where you went up and down the neck.
Thanks. What I like about recording with that amp is that, contrary to a tube Marshall, an all tube Marshall, where you have to really kind of crank it to get it to speak, most of the tone of the 8100 is right there at the preamp stage.
Oh, that's good.
I have a little 15-watt Vox Night Train, which is an all tube amp.
Right.
Which I had modded by a great guy named Jewel Potter. But just straight out of the box, that amp is a really nice performance amp, but it's a beautiful recording amp because you get a very, very sweet tone.
I've been doing the same thing with what I have, just a 57 in front of the speaker, because I've just been so disgusted with anything that goes direct.
Yeah.
Can't get anything to sound good, or at least makes me happy.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, there's a lot of intangibles that a real piece of hardware physics offers you that a very controlled digital signal processing network doesn't.
Well, I do like one of my pedals because it's where you can emulate anybody's rig pretty much in terms of they use this amp and they have that's modeled, they have this effect that's modeled.
Right. But it's never. I mean, it's good for recording.
It's good for recording layers of stuff, but
Yeah.
to be an exposed solo instrument doesn't work. Right. But even then, I have to get the air involved at some point because if the air's not involved.
Well, I recorded the whole Bone record with Hugh Hopper on bass and John Roulette on drums. That's all direct, actually. That's all the pod.
Right.
And I was happy with that, but yeah, there's a lot of layers there. So
it needs the layers if that's going to work. Because I've heard some stuff too. There's just like, I couldn't listen to your album. I didn't want to tell the guy, but because everything was so like in the can for like 50 minutes, right. I was feeling like I want to take my shirt off. I was getting claustrophobic.
Yeah.
What's the first piece of music that you remember in terms of something that really resonated with you?
That's easy. That's the Meet the Beatles.
Really?
Yeah. My sister got it for her birthday. I was 3. She was, I guess, 6. I was like 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
My mom bought it for her, and we flipped it on. The family stereo, one of those giant Magnavox sort of refrigerator-sized stereos with the spindle and the multiple changer.
Right. Da-da-da-da.
Oh, God, yeah. I remember pretending to play I remember asking my mom, like, what is this instrument? What is this instrument? And pretending to play along with whatever instrument she said it was. So for a while I was playing piano on a couch cushion, which I took off and put in front of myself so that I would have sort of like a playing surface. So that was like my piano. I don't know if I can't remember if there's actually any piano on that record.
There's a couple of George Martin overdubs.
Okay.
Money
She obviously detected it and told me there was piano. So I played a lot of piano on that first record. And I played a little guitar.
Predating Billy Preston by years as the fifth Beatle.
I remember being a little worried. I remember quietly asking my mom if my sister's friends who were coming over for the party were going to be screaming while we would play that record, because I saw, all this footage of girls screaming when the Beatles played live. So I thought that was just sort of a thing that you do when you listen to the Beatles.
Well, that's a
she
valid
assured me
question.
that they weren't going to scream.
Well,
But to like a 3 or 4-year-old, that was a valid concern. It's like, should I not be here when you flip this on? Because like a bunch of screaming girls 2 years older than me is going to be a little scary.
Actually, they still are.
And they still are.
At any age.
So she assured me they probably would not be screaming. And but the first record I bought for myself, or the first record that I called my own, was Donovan Hurdy-Gurdy Man.
Okay.
And that is a record that I can go back to that record again and again, like throughout my life, and marvel at what an incredibly deep record that is, and the quality of the composition and arrangement and musicianship on that is just, and the production is incredible. I feel so lucky that I would have happened on a record of that quality at an early age, and have my brain sort of wire itself around really high quality signal rather than
Captain Kangaroo.
some crap.
Yeah.
So Donovan was really a pretty important character in my life for a while, and then Three Dog Night. I was then getting attracted to heavy music, and I remember this tune "Woman" off the It Ain't Easy record, which just was super, really heavy, parallel fifth chordal, and I remember flipping that on for the first time and going like, "Yeah, this is good." And then Zeppelin, Tull, got the fourth Zeppelin record, and Aqualung, and at that point I was already in 8th grade and making semi-autonomous decisions.
I had a few situations like that, except I think I'm just like 3 years younger than you. So,
could you play your D?
Iron Butterfly on 8-track tape. And Paranoid. The problem is, like, a lot of those songs don't exactly fit into the track. You have to switch to another track or something.
I never had an 8-track.
You're a lucky man. Well, they're called 8-track because they had 8 tracks, 4 stereo pairs, and they had a thing called 4 programs. So these were always playing simultaneously. So whenever the tape was playing, you could always go from from program 1 to program 2 to program 3 to program 4. The problem is on a song like Inagaga Davida, which lasts longer than most of that,
right,
it would have to span over that. So
they fade out and fade in.
Or it's just an abrupt click for a second. And the problem is that's a classic example of one of many pieces that when it gets to that part of the song, no matter if you're listening to it on vinyl or CD, my body tenses up. I'm
because you've learned it.
I've learned it where that click's going to be.
Oh, wow. I've learned skips in my record.
Okay.
There's been skips in records that were so consistent that I would learn them.
That's the sound of progress. So, would you honor me with playing a little bit of music with you to close out the show?
Totally, yeah. I'm ready for that. Seeing as I got a new set of strings, courtesy of your theme.
What are we going to call this?
Well, I'd like to call this a Petromazantiform, which is a series of pieces that I've been developing that are sort of guided improvisations that are very sort of shape-based. So we'll find some left-hand shapes and kind of conjugate them with right-hand activity, which I'll outline some basic guidelines, principles. And we're going to go for textures and slow change.
Sounds good. So this is like the cooking show where we pull out the cake that's already done out of the oven. So give us a moment and we'll be right back with the music. Nick, that was awesome.
Yes, it was. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot for being on the show. Just tell us quickly anything that we should be looking forward to.
Vomit Fist is working on new material. We're going to work on our next EP. Bunch of new projects that came out of my residency at the Stone last November that I'm really excited about recording. Petromyzontiforms is a whole series of pieces for guitar that I'm doing with Sam Smith and Kevin Hufnagel, and then there's a big piece that we did, the three of us, with Guidonian Hand Trombone Quartet. Want to record that. I've got duos, a book of 100 pieces for James Moore and Kathy Sapove on guitar and piano that I'm working on, so they'll be premiering that in the next year. And Didkovsky.com, Didkovsky.com, that's got links to everything that I'm working on.
And there you have it. Okay, everybody, thank you for listening.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. Our guest has been Nick Didkovsky, and you can find out more about him at Didkovsky.com. That's Didkovsky.com. Listen to an extended version of the duet from this week's show and a special demonstration of Nick's stealth guitar on our website at stringsandthingsshow.com. Special thanks to Vox Amps USA, D'Addario Strings, and Electro Harmonics, New York City. I'm Jocelyn Gonzalez on the Zeros and Ones, and Patrick Grant is our host and axe wrangler. Strings and Things is a Peppergreen production for Headstepper Media. See you next time.